A recent report by the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft has revealed incredibly damning details on the Secretary of Defense Executive Fellows Program. It's a mouthful, sounds super boring, except it's not when you consider some of the conflicts of interest that are baked into how these fellowships work. Now, under that program, military officers are placed inside corporations, often private defense contractors, for a year. And when they return, they become unofficial mouthpieces for the very corporations that they had their fellowships within, or their programs within. So the fellowship program was launched back in 1995. In total, over 315 military officers have participated in this program. Now, the most recent cohorts have consisted of 16 to 19 officers per year. And while the program technically includes a wide range of corporations and a number of industries, there's an obvious conflict of interest when it comes to one industry in particular. As the lever writes, nearly a third of the fellows were assigned to the top 50 government contractors, and 15% went to work for Boeing, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon, the top 5 military contractors. These 5 defense companies spent more than $830 million lobbying the Defense Department and other federal entities during the same years they had fellows, regulatory filings show. And so the purpose of this program is so the officers get to study how corporations run. How about you do that in business school, homeboy? Like, why do we need to do this in the context of the Pentagon and the State Department? Then when they return to the State Department, they brief high-ranking officials on their experience and tell the Department of Defense how they can learn from those companies. Now, Ben Freeman, one of the authors of this report, writes the following. Let's take a look. Lobbyists would salivate over the opportunity to provide a briefing to Defense Department leadership at that level. This is better lobbying than any money could buy for these companies. When it's somebody who's a military officer coming back to the Defense Department and saying those same talking points, people are going to take that up much more than they would if these kinds of words are coming from a lobbyist. And sure enough, private companies have absolutely been hijacking the fellows or this fellowship program to push their own interests. According to the Quincy report, one of the most common recommendations for the Defense Department is to outsource the department's essential functions. So essentially privatize certain functions of the military, of the Defense Department. An early cohort recommended that the Defense Department should outsource everything not core to the Defense Department. Other cohorts have recommended that other things get outsourced, including information technology, medical services, research and design, finance and accounting, and personnel administration. In other words, public funding for private industry. Other fellows have recommended that the Defense Department do more business with the companies they worked for, such as the healthcare giant CVS Health, the mining and construction equipment manufacturer Caterpillar, and the railroad conglomerate Norfolk Southern. I have more examples. It's an incredible report, so definitely read the reporting from the Lever on this. Jake, why don't you weigh in?
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you. We've gotten used to living under corporate rule, and so things that should be outrageous are now considered perfectly normal in Washington. So you look at this and go, this is intermingling corporations and the government and doing enormously effective propaganda to the people that are going to be the decision makers on how much money those defense contractors get, right? Obviously wrong, obviously outrageous. You know how they say you should separate church and state, and that's written into our founding documents. Well, if you read the founding fathers, and I talked about this in Justice is Coming, they said now, way more important, even more important, is make sure that corporations do not get out of hand. They didn't even want corporations, a lot of them didn't even want corporations to exist. And Madison said, at best, they are a necessary evil. They did not want them commingling with the government at all. That's totally opposite of what this country was founded on, because it was supposed to be of the people, by the people, for the people. But corporate rule has completely taken over in every way. Campaign contributions, these types of programs, the revolving door, etc. We're fighting against this machine. The Lever does a brilliant job of pointing out this particular problem. But if you ask anyone in mainstream media, this is beautiful and there's nothing wrong with it. And all the corporations are the greatest gift to humanity, and we should all pray at their altar.
Yeah, it's insane. And I want to give you a specific example of how these companies, these corporations leverage the fellows to get exactly what they want. And this is an excerpt from the Lever reporting. They write that the fellowship's 2013 cohort recommended repealing a Defense Department rule that prevents the agency from spending more than 50% of its military depot maintenance budget on contractors, because they want that money. Boeing and Lockheed Martin both sponsored fellows in the cohort and both lobbied the Defense Department and other federal entities in 2013 on depot policy and maintenance issues, lobbying disclosures show. And so they use that in order to persuade the Defense Department to move in a different direction, loosen up some of those regulations so they can get more of that public money funneled into their private corporations. But don't worry, it's not just the companies that are getting away with what they want. The fellows also do get something in return, right? So they essentially become lobbyists on behalf of the corporations that they're doing the fellowships in. More than 40% of the fellows have gone on to work for government contractors at some point in their post-military careers. So, sounds like a little bit of quid pro quo.
Yeah, guys, so like you'll see us get frustrated about the influence of AIPAC lobbyists on the issue of Israel. And we tell you all the time, it's not the exception, it's the rule. In fact, it's the great majority of the time it's corporations that do it. Drug companies get monopolies and you can't compete with them for 12 years. You can't even negotiate drug prices. It's patently absurd. In the case of the Defense Department, remember the Pentagon has not passed an audit in half a dozen years. And they say they cannot account for half their budget, which is over $400 billion. And they're so flippant about it. And no one in media cares. They're like, oh, we don't know where the 400 billion went. Who cares? I mean, it went to contractors, of course. But what do you want? Expect this to do accounting and track where the money went? No, we already robbed you. I mean, took your taxpayer money and gave it to the people that bribed us. I mean, gave us campaign contributions. And by the way, we're gonna work for them. We work for them as fellows. We're gonna work for them afterwards. And one of the top scams they have is retiring generals almost always go to work for defense contractors. But right before they go to work for defense contractors for a lot of money, they make sure that we buy a ton of equipment from those defense contractors. So that's how this game is played, but everyone in mainstream media says, see no evil, hear no evil. I don't know what you're talking about. Corruption, what name so? You guys sound conspiratorial. Follow real journalists like the ones at the Lever.
But at least we can rest easy knowing that private military contractors like Boeing really do make a good, reliable product.
Oh yeah, because the fact that they can't even find where the 400 billion is not even important, because it's not like their doors fly off in the middle of the flight. It's not like their planes keep crashing over and over again. So we should just trust that corporations have our best interests at heart. And this is the insanity that Washington says with a straight face. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.